Welcome to Influential Entrepreneurs, bringing you interviews with elite business leaders and experts, sharing tips and strategies for elevating your business to the next level. Here's your host, Mike Saunders.
Hello and welcome to this episode of Influential Entrepreneurs. This is Mike Saunders, the Authority Positioning Coach. Today we have with us Ann M. Wilkinson, who's the founder of Hands On Health, and we'll be talking about her practice serving her patients. Ann, welcome to the program.
Thank you. Very nice to meet you.
You too. I want to learn all about what you do and why you do it. So get us started with your story and background, and how did you get into the industry of serving people with health sciences?
Oh, that's such an interesting question. I think I first started out volunteering in the physical therapy department when I was 15. So I've technically been laying hands on people since I was 15. But I think it actually started before that. I didn't find out till I was in my 30s that I had a great grandmother who was in Italy, was the town, healer. And she delivered babies, and she made salves, and she manipulated, bodies. But I didn't know that. And I didn't know that my real last name, Lamana, meant the hands. And here I had named my business Hands on Health, and all my work was manual. So you have to wonder a little bit about the DNA. And, and then I was born 2 months early, and my right hand didn't really have enough time to form completely. So I had a little bit of surgeries that needed to be done. But in the 1960s, surgery was a little more complicated than it is today. So you'd be in the hospital for a very long time. You had to be in 2 weeks before surgery to make sure you weren't sick and bringing anything to the ward. And then you had to be without any fevers or anything for 2 weeks before you could go home. So I got to see a lot. I just had my little fingers, wrong, but the children in the ward were scoliosis surgeries and all kinds of everything that you could imagine. And so I think I got an early education.
Sure. Sounds like it. Well, let's talk a little bit about what you do. Talk about the different types of medicine that you use and why you chose to focus on those.
So I remember being in third grade, and you have to remember I've had pretty good amount of exposure to the medical world by 8 years old. And our teacher asked us in homeroom, "What do you want to be when you grow up?" I didn't really remember what I said, but I had run into the boy who sat behind me in our adulthood. And he was asking me how was I and what was I doing. And when I told him, he said, "Ann, when we were in third grade, Mrs. Davis asked us what we wanted to be when we grew up. And you said you wanted to be a doctor that made people live. You weren't interested in putting them to sleep or to helping them die." And I didn't know at that time that there was an osteopathic homeopath. In the 1940s, it was the number one medicine. And it was kind of putting all the other medicines out of business. People kind of had the impression that if you went to the hospital, you were likely going to die. So on every street corner, there was homeopaths and osteopaths. And even
That's amazing.
Edgar Casey,
Yeah.
isn't that so fascinating? And then even Edgar Casey, who's a very fascinating being, many people who watch or listen to your podcast may already know him, but he found out when he was a boy that if he would, in the sleep state, he could tap into the Akashic records and the stream of consciousness. And it's interesting, he would get letters, and he would fall asleep. His secretary would read them to him, and then he would, in his sleep state, tell them what to do. And everything came in a letter. So he would literally get a letter saying, Mrs. Gertrude at 9 Holly Lane is having, swollen toes and bleeding nose and all these things. And then he'd go into this state and say, at the Hershey Pharmacy, there's a remedy, but it's behind the hair care products. It's the last one. Like, he would know these incredible things. But he always prescribed homeopathy first and an osteopathic adjustment. And then the next things he would prescribe would be like the things you would do at home, like mixing turmeric with black pepper and ghee or soaking apples in rum. And then if he did have to prescribe a pharmaceutical, he insisted that you get it before it was compounded. I have found that so fascinating because the compounding elements really cause people a lot of problems. Usually it's not the little teeny bit of the medicine that's actually working. It's all the addition. So,
Isn't that kind of like
yeah,
food? It's like that, the food we eat is not the problem. It's all the added preservatives that tends to create problems.
that is a very good point. It's a very good point. And we can't act like because it's a long word and we don't know how to pronounce it that we don't need to know what it is.
Yeah.
We can't play that anymore.
So what are some of the maybe triggers or things someone should notice in their own health that might make them think, wow, maybe Anne could help me?
Okay. First of all, when people come to see me, they always say the same kinds of things. I have tried absolutely everything. I've had pain for 22 years since this particular, I was rear-ended and broke my back and neck or whatever. The patient usually will tell you exactly what's going on. And sometimes it doesn't match what the prescription says from the doctor. So the prescription might say that treat them for hip pain, but the patient is insisting it started with my back.
Yeah.
So it's really when people come in here, they get carried in. They say they haven't been able to walk for a long time. And even just the other day, I didn't even touch this woman. All I did was kind of prop her against the wall and got her into a position and had her kind of repeat the position a few times, stand up. Now, this woman had 22 years of pain, was unable to walk, had a difficult time walking from the cart into the door, was so leaning, like the leaning tower, the Pisa Tower of Pisa, like really leaning hard. And that's the first thing I saw, like, oh my goodness, you're so crooked. And she's listed all the doctors that she's seen. She was just to her chiropractor. But I said, did anyone notice that you're so shifted? And she said, no. So I propped her up and we got her unshifted. And she stood up and said, right this second, I don't feel any pain. And I said, well, let's get you on the table. And I worked on her and balanced her pelvis and lengthened her dural tube and things like that. And I found a trigger point that really was huge. And it was right there where she was kind of scrunched up. So I just lengthened and lengthened and lengthened. So I said, well, let's just get off the table and see how you're feeling right now. She headed for the front door. So her son said, where are you going? Are you think you're going to go out and have a cigarette in the middle of your treatment? She said, I'll be right back. She ran up my driveway, which is fairly long, to the road and back. And not actually run like a like a jog, but like a
Yeah.
fast walk, and came back and
Yeah.
said, I knew I could do it. I just had to prove it to myself. So it sometimes I get a bit frustrated because I'm like, how could, like, people will list 14 practitioners they've seen, all the way from orthopedic surgeons right through everybody to the physical therapist, the massage therapist, and something so simple as you're crooked and let's make you straight and see then, because when you're crooked, gravity has a much more of an advantage over you and it weighs heavy on you. So when you're crooked, with every step you take, you're correcting. Every step you take, you're correcting. Now, it's not obvious to the naked eye. It would be obvious to someone like me, but everybody, if you look around, you're not going to see that someone's lurching. But there's a subtle lurch when you're out of balance that you have to do extra work all day. So
Yeah.
these people who are crooked are very tired at the end of the day. They don't really want to go and do anything at the end of the day. They're exhausted just from standing against gravity.
Wow. So what are the types of treatment modalities that you use most often? Because when I hear what you're describing with, pain as well as, maybe hunched over, you think, okay, well, chiropractor, or you think red light therapy, or you think, a lot of different things. What are some of your main go-tos and why do you use those?
So all these practitioners are wonderful. But what I've noticed when I started in the 1980s, and actually earlier than that, because it was in the 70s that I entered actually the physical therapy. And then all through college, I worked as an athletic trainer in the athletic training room. So I've had my hands on people for a long time. But I noticed that slowly our practice withdrew the hands-on, the kind of almost a mothering effect of physical therapy that kind of got lost, and it kind of got replaced by chrome-plated gauges and machines. And I really feel like the profession lost its most valuable gem is our hands.
Wow.
And at the same time, I really do believe there's a wonderful amount of skill that comes with manual therapy and being able to connect with the fascia and feel into it and follow restrictions. And, if you feel heat, there's many indications that tell you if you're going in the right direction. And at the same time, Mike, can you imagine? So I've had 5 degrees to do what I do, but I really can see that you could graduate children from high school if they had proper health education to do what I do with 5 degrees. And you should be able to do it to your dog, to your baby, to your husband, to your wife, to your children. So even though 5 degrees, and all the initials sounds like you have to have all this in education, in reality, there is an innate ability within us not only to heal ourselves, but to heal each other.
Yeah.
So my title is a fascial integration specialist. You brought up food. You brought up when you say what modalities, first of all, I need to make sure that you're aligned and all the channels are open and the lymph is wide open and the blood vessels have no strain on them or constriction. That's one phase. Now, the fascial system itself, it's like a body stocking underneath of your skin, and it's got a very glistening kind of a wet medium to it. Not only is it like that body stocking, but it begins to wrap deeper and deeper in the body around groups of muscles, then particular muscles, then the fibers within the muscles, then the muscle cells in the fibers, then the little mitochondria and all the little things in the cells. It goes so deep into the body. But because it's electromagnetic, it's also like an antenna to the outside, to the etheric, to the world that we can't really see. So the fascia brings in information from everywhere, from your emotions, from what you're eating, from what you're thinking, from your past traumas to your fears of the future. All this stuff kind of resides in that electromagnetic aspect of your being. So I love getting you aligned. And then I like if you are in need of a homeopathic remedy because that works quickly. Like if you're having burning when you pee or you're bleeding or you're having difficulty breathing, you want something right there, right then, bingo, bango. You don't want to sit in an emergency room for 6 hours exposed to God knows what, waiting for your insurance card number because it didn't work. Like you want to have these homeopathic kits and books and Ayurvedic herbs in your spice kit. So the homeopathy kind of helps you emergency. But the Ayurvedic medicine, the principles about what you eat, that is medicine to an individual, to each person, is what keeps that fascia's integrity and it keeps it working optimally. So people can do so much more for this system of their body that's so important than they've been told. You don't learn about this in health class. You learn how to do drugs. You learn how to take the birth control pill. You don't learn any more about the rhythm method, all the things that you can do on your own. Everything's kind of geared towards you go out somewhere. If your insurance pays for it, you get it and feel like you won the lottery because you've already paid so much into it that you feel like you're getting something. And yet there could be something you would pluck off a tree in your yard that would benefit you far more.
Yeah. Wow. And you feel good about it because it's not medicine, processed, things like that. And I'm sure there's a place for that as well, but you're looking at more of the ways that make your body do what it's supposed to do anyway. I know you've got such a long career. Who's are some of your mentors that have guided and shaped your thinking and your career?
I graduated physical therapy school having worked 3 jobs to pay for school, and I was very idealistic, when I came out. And I first started to work in a hospital. And they sent me to my first continuing education class. And when I came back, it was very wonderful because it was a man from Europe. And the European therapists are way ahead of us in manual therapy just because they've been around a lot longer. And they taught us, wonderful techniques, and they proved to us that what we were being told to do in our statutes for low back pain was actually causing disc herniation, and that we had 85% more surgeries because of us, the physical therapists, and what we were doing.
Wow.
I have to tell you, I was absolutely flabbergasted. I did all that work to get through school, and I came out and we're hurting people. Like, I do have to tell you. So I decided that from that point on, I would only study from masters, and I would lean towards the European and manual side because that seems to be what was working. The other, smearing the ultrasound gel, lighting people up with electrical stim, it just wasn't getting it. So when I came back, the techniques worked so well. I was discharging people who had been coming to the hospital for years, and they were getting every modality that you could smear on them that the aides could do. So the physical therapist could be busy signing the things that got you paid, checking off the boxes. And that was all kind of new then. And I realized, like, oh boy, something's going wrong. And I just kept leaning in toward working with the therapists that were the best in the world for manual therapy. So John Barnes was a great teacher of mine. He just recently passed, broke my heart. And I first heard about him because the physical therapy profession got into such an uproar about him thinking that treating the fascia was significant. It was the most significant modality that I have ever used, is treating the fascia. People would have memories of their trauma. They would be able to forgive someone who threw them down the steps through this memory that's trapped in their body, and then they would stand up and the twist of their body would be gone because they released this energy that was kind of trapped there. And it was so hard to hear them saying so many bad things and pushing this modality out of the physical therapy realm. And then it kind of dropped into the massage therapy realm a little bit. But osteopathy truly are the owners of the fascial system way back in the 40s. The AMA pulled osteopathy and homeopathy under their umbrella, and then they discarded it. But the good thing is truth kind of always comes back to the surface. You can't really kill truth. So homeopathy and osteopathy are back into the picture again. And I do foresee that you'll be hearing much more. The word osteopathy, the word Ayurvedic, the word homeopathy will become words familiar to people in America, I think, in the near future.
Neat. Well, this has been really enlightening to hear your approach from decades of experience of serving your patients and having transformation in their lives. If someone is interested in learning a little more and connecting with you to see if you can help them, what's the best way that they can connect with you, Anne?
I know I'm a little old-fashioned, but I really do love when people text me, and then we can even set up a 20-minute phone discovery call. And then I like to send you back information about maybe certain aspects that would pertain to what your issue is. So my phone number is 302-275-4198. 302-275-4198. If you text me, we'll start a conversation, and then I will direct you to more, like some of my YouTubes or things like that may help you very specifically. Like if you say to me, I don't understand what is homeopathy, I'll send you a clip, or maybe we'll even get to talk in person one day. That would be fantastic. People do come here to this farm and stay sometimes for 3 to 10 days and eat really super healthy food and just get into a healthy lifestyle and get a couple treatments a day. And then they see super profound changes in their body.
Perfect. Awesome. Well, thank you so much for coming on. It's been a real pleasure chatting with you.
Thank you. And
you've been listening to Influential Entrepreneurs with Mike Saunders. To learn more about the resources mentioned on today's show or listen to past episodes, visit www.influentialentrepreneurssradio.com.